Welcome back to another episode of Inboxing. I'm your host, Hill Berg. Inboxing is brought to you by the fine folks over at Ongage. Ongage is an online platform where you can send emails from, but what's really fantastic about it is that it integrates with a lot of SDPs, meaning you can connect it to a lot of different deliverability channels and see what's working best. But another thing that's great about it is that in terms of data integration and stuff, it's fantastic. Really, you can do almost anything and build fantastic journeys to increase engagement. And we'll talk all about that. With our today's guest, I'm really honored to have her on. She's a superstar on LinkedIn as a copywriter. Not all copy, general copy, marketing copy. She's the #1 marketer on LinkedIn, according to her mom. And we'll talk about that. I can't believe, I don't say I can't believe it, but I really thank her a lot for showing up today. And so without further ado, please welcome Liz Willits.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
For sure. Thank you for coming. Really appreciate it, which I hope I made clear.
Yeah.
All right. So let's jump right into things. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you grew up and your background?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I grew up in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania suburbs. So I'm about, north of Philadelphia by a little bit. I grew up there and then went out to school out in Western PA to study English communications. Studied that. Didn't, knew I liked writing, didn't quite know how I would use it, but then ended up going into originally content marketing in SaaS tech. And then, went into copywriting from there and all kinds of anything written, digital marketing, and worked for different SaaS tech companies for, around 7-8 years. And just for anyone listening, SaaS stands for software as a service. So, and I specialized in business to business, software as a service tech.
Okay, great. So did you always consider yourself a writer? Actually, you went to school for English communications. So you must have known that was a strength or an interest at least.
Yeah, definitely at least an interest. I don't know if I always considered myself a writer. It was probably more post-college when I realized that. I think I was like many people who go into college and they're not quite sure what they're going to do with this degree. And then I fell into something like I absolutely love. I love tech. I love writing, and I love conveying a message in a really powerful way. And I feel really fortunate that I kind of fell into tech, which is such a fun, growing field, and I'm so passionate about it. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Are you always interested in copy and marketing per se?
Yeah, I guess copywriting, not initially. So, I was always interested in content marketing and the education side of it, but I had this dislike for copywriting sometimes, at least like, and now it's getting to be people are more interested in copywriting now. But when I started to first hear about copywriting, it was kind of like a salesy, greasy kind of like not cool thing. And my initial impression was, like this. I like content. Like I'm not going to go into copywriting. And then I started to see like the amazing power of copywriting and what it truly is. It's sales in writing, and it can be so powerful, and it can help in every part of your digital marketing. And it can also, if you bring copywriting into your content marketing, you can make your content way more persuasive, way more interesting. And copywriting ultimately is about writing in a way that makes people want to read. And that is ultimately what it is. And so as any good writer, that's what they should be wanting to do. And copywriting just takes that to the next level, where you're really studying how can you keep people reading and keep them interested in what you're writing.
Right. I had so many thoughts while you were talking with like follow-up questions. but I'm being a terrible interviewee now because I can't remember anything. But I'll come back to it, I guess. I see like in your content, you talk about like writing as a human being, like so much copy. I think we're used to seeing is like so dry and not funny. We'll talk about your sense of humor because I think you have a good one.
Thank you.
But we'll jump to the next question and we'll come back because we're touching on a lot of topics right now. So okay. So how did you get to email? I mean,
so email was another thing that initially my perspective on it, in my first technology job, I did email marketing and I enjoyed it, but it was kind of like, okay, email. There are cooler things. There are cooler marketing channels like social media and, working on website copy. That's just much cooler than email. And then I got a job. My second job was at Aweber, and they're an international email marketing platform. And
they're one of the early ones also.
They actually I think they were founded the same year as Google. So they were right there with MailChimp as one of the first email marketing platforms. I believe that they were the email platform to actually invent email automation. So man, I spent quite a few years there and really learned how powerful email is at, engaging your audience in a place where they want to be engaged, and how powerful permission-based email is, and how to do email right and how to do email wrong, and just how effective it is, especially in countries where most people use email. And that's kind of how I fell in love with email marketing and became a proponent for it, started speaking about it at different conferences and fighting for it, because it is one of those marketing channels that comes off as either complex or spammy sometimes because so many people do it wrong, or there are so many people who don't want to do email marketing because they think it's dead and it doesn't work, which couldn't be further from the truth. So I became a big proponent and advocate for it because, working at Aweber, I could see firsthand how many businesses it made such a positive impact for, and could kind of peek under the hood of thousands of email accounts and see what people are doing and seeing what great marketers are doing as far as email.
Right. Yeah. Truth is, I discovered you on LinkedIn because of your post about, email marketing is dead. Or you didn't write email marketing is dead. You wrote coffee is dead or something like that. You compared it to coffee, and you wrote a whole post about how coffee is dead. Nobody drinks it, and obviously caught people's attention because that's ridiculous. But then you obviously flip the switch and then say email's not dead. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world.
Right. Yeah. Because, the concept or the idea that email's dead is just so crazy. We're on our email all day long, checking it. Now, maybe the bad way of doing email is dead, like spamming and buying email lists, because first off, that's just gross.
That was never a good way to do things. Right.
Never a good way to do things. And then on top of that, internet service providers are really cracking down on it. They've always been trying to crack down on it, but they're getting really smart about making sure you can't easily spam. The bad email marketing is dead, but permission-based email marketing is so effective, and people are in their inboxes all day long.
Right. So did your role at Aweber, it sounded like you had a few jobs between there and, where you're being solo. Did that prepare you really for for going solo, or there was a bunch of steps in between?
Yeah, I actually went straight from Aweber to going solo. And it definitely absolutely did. I'm very grateful for my time there. And I definitely recommend to people, if you want to go solo, spend some time at a company where you can learn a lot. And I definitely learned a lot there. Towards the end of my time at Aweber, I was speaking, going to conferences and speaking at webinars. I had started growing my LinkedIn audience. And, I'd had the opportunity to learn the ins and outs of, digital marketing. And also, I started taking on clients on the side. But on top of that, Aweber's customers, many of them are entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, and I would see what they were doing and was so inspired by it. I thought it was amazing, thought it was cool, and just by talking to them, got to delve into what it looks like to be an entrepreneur. And I also worked with agencies at my time at Aweber and saw that many agencies, and I think this is a result of how agencies often scale really quickly, but many agencies weren't producing what I considered really high quality work. And it gave me the confidence to feel like I can go out there and produce really good copy. And there's a market for that. There's a need for that, because it is hard to do that, especially for agencies who are scaling very quickly.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I see that also from, my inbox, and then you sign up for emails, and the copy's not great. The design, everything's an image. There's a lot of things going wrong at a lot of these agencies. Yeah, it's a pity. But it creates opportunity. So that's nice. All right, what kind of things do you find upsetting in the inbox? I mean,
yes. Well, absolutely. Number one is when I haven't opted into an email list, and I end up getting an email from someone, and that's just really frustrating to me. And I've started to make a point of marking them as spam. And typically I ignore most emails in my inbox if I'm not interested in them. I'm not like an inbox zero person, or, I'm not like regularly just deleting emails every morning. But yeah, spam emails are very frustrating. But besides that, I hate when people use subject lines that try to trick you into opening the email, or subject lines that are just a pun. Like, for instance, on, let's see, what would be like, Black Friday in the US, some kind of Black Friday pun. And for international audiences, Black Friday is like a huge sale day in the US.
I think it's become international. I mean, I'm in Israel, and Black Friday is definitely a thing here as well.
Okay, of course. One of my least favorite holidays. So I was kind of hoping it wouldn't spread, because it's I don't know. There's just a lot of shady things that go on Black Friday, at least in the US.
So our companies come out of their like shell and love to send like tons of email where they haven't been like engaging anyone all year long. It's like, oh, now we're here and we have things to sell.
Right, we have things to sell, so pay attention to us. But yeah, I really hate like puns where a subject line is just a pun.
Can you give an example of that? Like, I'm not sure I'm grasping what you mean.
Let me see if I can find one. I had one written down the other day that made me laugh. We'll see if I can find it, though. I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but
well, if it made you laugh, I'm wondering why you hated it. Like,
well, it makes me laugh because I didn't laugh because it was funny. I laughed because instead of writing something that would actually get me to open the email, they wrote like this pun. Let's see.
I'll give you time. We could edit out, all this waiting time, so it's fine. Okay. You can take 2 minutes if you want.
Okay, I found that. Let me find an example of a pun in the inbox that I thought was stupid.
Someone knocking? I'm sure if like the wind or someone's actually at the door.
Okay, all right, I found one.
All right. So we got a real example.
Yes. So Easter, around the Easter holidays in the US, there was this one subject line that was hop on in to, and then the company's name. Um, so, and it's a pun playing off rabbits hopping.
Right.
What I don't like about that is it's burying everything that was actually in the email. So they were running a 50% off sale on some key items in their store. But instead of saying that in the subject line, it was this pun that was like, hop on in. And the problem is that everyone else is also using these puns. So nothing stands out in the inbox. And instead of putting something compelling or interesting in the subject line, it's just this attempt to be witty. And I totally get it. To be fair, I've written subject lines like this in the past, so no shade at anyone. But yeah, I guess, back to the point that it's not necessarily upsetting, but a pet peeve of mine is when you don't use a subject line well. And because it's so important to getting people to open your email.
Right. Yeah, and I think what you're pointing at, like, they didn't do anything with that pun, first of all, to make themselves stand up, but also to tell people what they're actually offering.
Right. And they're like, they're burying the lead. If you have a 50% off sale on certain items, why would your subject line not mention that?
Right. Like, even if you want to go with the pun and mention 50% off, like hop into
Right.
50% savings. Like,
right.
Oh, okay, I'll do that. Like.
Right. Your subject line should be, in most cases, the most interesting thing you can say.
Should be like your hook. No, like that.
Yeah, it's your hook. And that's one of the things when there's no hook in any kind of copy, whether it's email or something else, it's definitely a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah. I don't normally write with hooks, but I don't know if you noticed this, but I copied your technique. Like, I did a email, but I wrote the copy for our talk the first time or the second time. So we had it a few times, but I did that thing like Liz Willits has 50,000 plus followers on LinkedIn, but that's not the most interesting thing about her.
Yeah,
and that's all you
good.
say. Well, I copied it. You did it about, I don't remember what the thing was, but one of your posts like did exactly that formula.
Right. Yeah. Great hooks are one of my favorite type of hooks are things that are surprising information that people are kind of like, what? And because you need to stop them in their tracks from what they're doing. And so surprising or counterintuitive info is very effective.
All right. Awesome. All right. What was your biggest marketing mistake?
Let's see.
I feel like the difference between like experienced marketers and non-experienced marketers is that we have mistakes. Like, we know what we've done in the past, so we don't do them again.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I've sent emails with typos in them. I would say probably the biggest pattern, the mistake that bothered me the most that I've done are sending emails that shouldn't have been sent out or weren't ready to be sent out. Because as someone who's an email pro or portrays himself as one, that it's not a good look. And also emails are pretty irrevocable in most cases. Once you send them, they're sent.
Right. There's no edit button after that. Yeah.
Right. And, and how people interact with that email affects your deliverability rate and your reputation. And so I would say biggest mistake, one time I sent an email that shouldn't have been sent to a very massive email list, very massive. And that was not a fun day. So, to turn that back for the audience listening, we all make mistakes. Email, unfortunately, when you make a mistake in email, it's pretty noticeable. But I see email mistakes all the time. It happens
all the time.
But do your best to test emails with multiple people looking at them. Ideally, you're using a platform like Litmus to, see how it's looking in different inboxes. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of my most successful posts on LinkedIn was about an email mistake from the New York Times, because they sent the follow-up like 10 minutes later, but the follow-up was terrible also. Like, it just didn't it wasn't clear what happened. Unfortunately, also the context was like somebody died, like a celebrity had died, and like the first one had the wrong link in it, but the second one didn't just like copy that subject line. There was like someone died. It was like I don't remember what it was, but I wrote a post about it. And I was like, what was going on in that room? You sent out the email but on the wrong link. Like, oh no, you gotta send it again. Like this panic set in that we had to get out another email really fast, and like it went out like badly. So yeah, the message was like, yeah, we're all human, breathe, so link, just when in that situation, like just do like parentheses, like link fixed, same subject line. So like people in their inbox will have like the original email, like the next email. Oh, okay, the first one had the wrong link. Okay, well, I'll check it again.
Right.
But that really resonated. That was huge.
Yeah. Sometimes with mistakes too, I've seen, I've had teams make mistakes, and then the apology emails that we sent out with the accurate information, like the open rates were insane. And so sometimes you can, if you handle I'm not saying to intentionally make mistakes and then, pretend to apologize, but sometimes when a mistake happens and you feel like, oh man, this is the worst day ever, you can, if you're being strategic, in many cases, you can turn it around and,
you can turn it to a huge win.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of wins, all right, what was your biggest win?
I had a couple viral LinkedIn posts that I was very proud of. Those for sure I consider a big win. I don't know if I consider them my biggest win, but those were great. And I had a couple of LinkedIn posts that didn't go viral, but helped me get big contracts with clients. So those tend to be the ones that actually lead to contracts, typically don't go viral. And they're typically a more informative, detailed post about my area of practice, copywriting. So I'd definitely say those are big wins. But the thing I'm most proud of is starting my own business and being able to market it successfully. So I think that was my biggest marketing win for me personally, the thing I'm most satisfied with, because I just love having my own business.
Was it, it kind of goes to the next question, but like, what do you think was the biggest contributor, like, to the success of your business so far?
Being able to write copy, and being able to write copy, and that was probably the biggest thing for me, and being able to build my LinkedIn audience. But it ultimately comes back to being able to write copy, understanding content marketing, and I'm also insanely competitive, so that definitely helps. Having being competitive can be my biggest strength, and also for anyone who's competitive, it can be a weakness too. But yeah, I would say being able to write copy though was a big factor in being successful. And then taking risks, the risk to start my own business, I was scared to do that, and it was my best career decision I ever made so far.
All right, cool. Is it, I wonder if I put this in, but yeah, like how much goes into like your LinkedIn calendar? Like is it monthly? Is it like how planned is it? It's clearly very planned, right? Like,
yeah, it depends sometimes, I think there's people on LinkedIn who are extraordinarily planned, or at least portray themselves that way, right? And so I try to be very planned and write my posts ahead of time and set a few hours together, and then stack my posts in my social media scheduler and have a theme for the week or theme for the month, theme days. And those things are all very helpful. But there are still times where I'm posting that morning and writing the post that morning because I might have had an insane week. And so I don't want to tell people, oh, you have to be this perfect planner and, have everything perfect. I just think, you need to show up, and whether that's you plan all the time, or whether that's, hey, this morning or this evening, I just need to get a post out there and I'm going to do the best post I possibly can. I both work, and I know people who use different methods. And so I don't want to prescribe to people that you have to be this planner. to make it
to
work.
be successful.
Right. But it is helpful. I find it helpful to write, and it's faster if you can sit down with a period of time and write a bunch of posts, because all the context switching, all the jumping between this task and that task, and then to have to interrupt.
Right.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And to have to interrupt every single day with, oh, now I'm going to write a LinkedIn post.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's not the best use of your time, but if that's how you have to do it, do it. But if you can chunk your work so that you're doing all of your LinkedIn posts or all of your Twitter posts in one day a month, you're going to be much more efficient.
Cool. All right. Yeah. All right. So I love your headline. It's not just the copy. It's the image with the copy, because people don't know, like, her LinkedIn image is like she's looking like she's the vice president of the United States. I mean, if she was Liz Willits, but it's like a strong pose. She's got her arm up, like a tough woman, right? You don't want to mess. And then the headline is, Liz is the #1 marketer to follow on LinkedIn, and then it says, signed by her mom. And it just makes you laugh. And yeah, like, so do you try to do stuff like that? Always like disarming, kind of like, two sides of the coin thing, I guess.
Yeah. Yes. First off, I love humor, and I think we need more humor in marketing, and that it can be very effective. But also, there are a lot of influencers now, right? Or what we call influencers. I kind of hate that term, but it is what it is. Influencers, thought leaders, people who have an audience. And I feel that people are getting frustrated with how many of these influencers portray their lives as perfect, like all the time. They're perfect. They're making millions of dollars. They have 5 cars. They only work 2 hours a day.
You did a post about that. You did a funny post about that.
Right.
Yeah,
and I think people are frustrated by it, and I'm frustrated by it. So I think it's kind of funny to have this, like, testimonial that's saying how great you are, and then to say, like, my mom, oh, it's from my mom. Only my mom really would say something like that. But the inspiration for it was I saw someone with a quote like this in their headline, a testimonial like this in their headline that was real. And my initial thought was like, oh man, I wish I had a testimonial like that. And then I decided, okay, well, my mom would definitely give me that testimonial, so I'm just going to put that in there. So that's kind of how it happened.
Awesome. Mouse makeup. All right, there it is. Okay. All right, what were you thinking when you left Aweber? I mean, I guess you kind of mentioned it before. Like, you saw there was an opportunity.
Yeah, I was also thinking, oh crap, what have I just done? Because it was the way it went down was interesting. So the day I had gotten another job offer, and for me, what would have been a dream job offer, it was like a head of content position at a unicorn tech company. And it was just an amazing team. I would have been working with brilliant people. And it was everything, it had the salary, it was everything. So it was a dream offer. And I'd gotten that, and I'd been thinking about, I'd been planning to start my own business. I had the date on my calendar when I was starting my own business and quitting, and COVID had hit and delayed that because I was waiting to see what was going to happen with COVID. But then I got this job offer, and I basically made the decision, okay, I'm leaving my current company, because I have 2 great opportunities. I'm taking one or the other. So which one is it going to be? And, I was 50-50 on it, and the security of a job and knowing that you can be successful and because you've done it before was really tempting. And so within like 24 hours, I turned down that job, gave notice at Aweber, and I kind of felt sick, and kind of wondered if I was insane.
Was it because you had like a conviction, like you think you could do this, like, or you wanted that challenge, like? And you said you're competitive, so like, did you know someone else that had opened an agency or like a copywriting You know,
I hadn't.
like
I didn't. And people told me not to do. Like, there are people who told me to do it, and then I had family members who told me not to do it. Like, don't start your own business. Like, we're in the middle. It was the beginning of COVID. Like, don't start your own business. We don't know what's going to happen here. Yeah, it was for me. It was thinking through, this is my dream. Am I going to chase something that's good, or am I going to chase something that's great? And will I, at the end of, a year, if this fails, how will I feel versus how will I feel always wondering, what if I'd done what I really wanted to do? And the tech company job, the job offer I had, it was, it was one where to get the equity promised, I would have had to stay there many years. And so it was, to make that deal completely worth it, I would have had to stay there for quite a few years. And so I thought about, like, okay, when I'm done with this and I'm at this age, am I going to be regretting, or am I going to be happy? Like the one was certain money, and, a good job, but the other was something it was my dream. And so that's kind of what got me over the hump, being like, okay, so what if I fail? At least I will be proud of myself, and I won't have to wonder all my life,
what if I had done that?
What if I'd done that? Yeah.
All right, cool. All right. How do you find topics, to post about, I mean, you post daily, right? Like at least 5 times a week?
Yeah, my goal is 5 times a week. I'm not always perfect, and I would tell everybody, you don't need to be perfect either. So if you miss a day, that's okay.
It's a great rule of marketing in general. Like,
right.
Sometimes just
some days,
yeah.
Some days, like, we're human, and especially if you're running this LinkedIn or this social platform on your own and you don't have a social team, you're gonna miss a day, and that's okay. Just get back to it when you get back to it. And sometimes you might miss a week because you just don't feel inspired. Okay, we'll get back to it. But try to post as much as you can. How do I find topics? So a lot of different ways. One big one is it's really about understanding the audience and understanding what's frustrating people, what they're struggling with. And that could be like, I can source topics via that way by understanding what I struggled with and what I was frustrated with when I was working in-house at tech companies as a marketer, what I'm frustrated with now running my own business. And, frustrations and pain points, and thinking how your social posts can either make someone feel less alone because they realize they're not the only person dealing with this, or they can actually help them solve that pain point. It's the most powerful topics on LinkedIn are going to be ones that, help people solve their pain points, whatever those are, or get closer to the transformation they're seeking in their lives. So you can do that via social listening, seeing what people are frustrated by, via talking to your customers, via, talking about your own frustrations and thinking through your own frustrations. And also a good thing to look at is if something is a popular topic on social media already, you should cover that topic with your own spin, because there's an audience that's listening and that's interested. So if you see someone on LinkedIn post about, email subject line length, and wow, the post has hundreds of comments, hundreds of likes and reactions. Okay, right away that this is a topic of interest to people. And I would recommend having a series of posts that will spin off of that with your own, not copying someone, but with your own unique spin on it and your own unique information. Because one of the challenges on any social media platform is knowing what topic is going to be interesting to people. And so if you see something that's already interesting to people, that's a great, way to validate that. Because sometimes I post stuff and I think it's going to be interesting to people, and it's crickets. So if you can find topics that people are interested in, just keep posting about them in different ways. One that I post about a lot is copy length, like short versus long copy. And I post about it to the point sometimes where I'm like, whew, people got to be annoyed about hearing about short versus long copy. But there are all different kinds of angles to write about that. There are different, insights to write about that very topic. And I know it's a topic of interest to people. And when I read copywriting books from like 50 years ago, it was a topic in those books too. Short versus long copy has been something we've been fascinated by for such a long time. And that's still the case. And you don't need to reinvent the wheel to write social posts. Tap into what people are already interested in.
All right. Awesome. This is sort of the same questions. If you want to just skip it, you can. But like, where do you get copy ideas? I mean, I guess it also refers to not just social posts, but like, I guess also in marketing and stuff like that.
Yeah. And one thing that I would recommend to people, especially if you're a newer copywriter, is getting inspiration from things that work and that have worked. Again, this is not plagiarizing. It's not like taking somebody's idea and stealing it word for word. But if something works really well, look at that piece of copy and analyze, why is this working? And how can psychologically, why is it impacting people? What are some ways that I could have my own unique spin on this and use this idea? And that way you're not reinventing the wheel. Again, you're sourcing from what already has worked. It's amazing when you can come up with something that you came up with out of nowhere that works brilliantly, but it's really hard to do that. And so I would say get inspiration from what's already working out there. Sometimes you're going to stumble on a brilliant idea on your own. That's awesome. But, you can get a lot of great ideas from what's already out there and what's already working. And even ads that are like 50 years old, you can steal inspiration from or get inspiration from.
Right. That's a good point. Also, you can look at like Pinterest boards of like copy examples and just, I know, inboxes, your own inbox, sign up for as many emails as you can and just notice what's working, what catches you.
Right.
All right. So yeah, what brands, do you like opening their emails? Do you love reading their copy? Like you feel like they're smashing it?
So I really like Morning Brew, their newsletter, their copy. I really like what they do. And the Skim I typically like as well. But as far as really good copy out there, I would say, I love following Very Good Copy. They have his newsletter, Eddie's newsletter is so fascinating and so interesting. So I would definitely recommend checking out that. It's a very unique newsletter format that is really smart. He uses growth loops to drive people from LinkedIn to email, from LinkedIn to email. And I think he does.
I've never heard of it. So yeah, I'm curious to check it out.
Yeah, check it out. Very Good Copy.
Very good copy. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. What are the keys to a great subject line and preheader?
A hook. So some kind of hook, and there are all different kinds of ways to write hooks. But if you think about your subject line as a 1-2, your subject line and your preheader as a 1-2 punch, like how can they work off each other to convince people to open that email? And often I see preheaders that are absolutely wasted space, or they're just a repeat of the subject line, like another way of phrasing the subject line. And that's a shame because that's really important landscape. And it should be, 1-2 punch to get people to open your emails. There are a couple things that you want to keep in mind of subject lines. A lot of people are opening from mobile devices. So you need to see how that looks like when it's in an inbox of a mobile device, because I think it's subject lines cut off at between 30 and 40 characters on a mobile device. And you really need to understand how that looks versus how it looks on a desktop. And keep in mind that you don't want to get your subject line cut off at an odd place. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you might want to really test the short subject lines and see how those work. But yeah, it's all about a hook, catching somebody's attention with something interesting, surprising, compelling, or just a really great offer. But yeah, you definitely want to catch their attention.
All right. So if somebody wanted to really step up their copy game, what would you suggest?
Yeah, really study copywriting. Study the current great copywriters out there. There are a lot of really great copywriters right now. Study what they're doing, read all their content, and analyze it. See, okay, why is this working here? Why is this working there? Keep a swipe file of like all the interesting copy you see, so you can go back and study it. Study the great copywriters, like Ogilvy, and Caples, and some of the copywriters from the 1900s that were just really phenomenal. And then, take courses from great copywriters. I would say qualifier, make sure they're actually a good copywriter before you take their course and that they actually practice what they preach. But study it and study. I'm a copywriter. I'm studying copywriting all the time and looking at something. Oh, wow, this copy really worked. Why did it work? And just really analyzing it and then trying to repeat that in a unique, different way.
All right. So speaking of copywriters to follow, so who are you following, or who do you think we should be following? Who are your favorite copywriters?
Eddie, a very good copy, and then I also follow copy hackers, Joanna Wiebe. Really love copy hackers, and then let's see. Those are my two main modern day copywriters that I follow.
I give copy hackers a lot of credit. I mean, I don't know if it's them. I don't know. I kind of feel like they made it kind of cool.
Yeah, they did. They brought copywriting back again and made people realize how effective it is and how transformative it is for businesses. And also how bad at it so many businesses are. No offense, but like many, no offense to these businesses listening, but
listening, right?
It's a reality. Like we need to bring it back. So many companies aren't leveraging conversion copy or good copy, and they're missing out on a lot of customers and revenue and sales because of that.
Okay. What are your favorite copy tools or books?
As far as, let me think about tools. I use Notion to document ideas when I have them. So I would just say some kind of platform to document your ideas as soon as you have them, so that you have a list of those ideas. And then sometimes I've used the Hemingway editor to view copy from a clarity perspective. The Hemingway editor is, you can paste, it's free. You can paste your copy or your content in there, and it'll give you feedback on how easy it is to read and how you can improve it. So I don't use that every time I write anymore, just because I've learned how to write in that way without it, but it can provide some good feedback, especially if you're newer to copywriting and newer to writing in general. So I'd recommend that. As far as books, I have a few good ones back here. Scientific Advertising is good. Making Ads Pay is good. The Adweek Copywriter's Handbook, I really like. I just read the Halbert Copywriting Method Part 3. It's on editing, so that's really interesting. Yeah.
All right. All right. There are AI tools for copywriters out there today. Do you think they have a place in, on the copywriter tool, like shelf, or no, humans writing for humans is nothing about it?
Yeah, I absolutely do think they have a place on a copy. I don't use one personally. I've checked out a couple of them, and I think they have very helpful tools, and that they can be very useful. I don't think they'll ever entirely replace a copywriter, and I don't feel I'm a total advocate for them. I don't feel threatened by them at all, because copy is one of those things that is extremely artistic, in a scientific way. Like, I say copy is a science, but it's not like a logical one-to-one thing all the time. Like, oh, this and then this. And I think that's how AI is getting, obviously it's supposed to be intelligent and really smart, but we're still in the early stages of what AI can do. And I don't think it'll ever, I think AI is going to be very effective for very rational, logical things, but sometimes copy is so like it doesn't initially make sense why it's working. But I think copywriters absolutely should use these AI copy tools where they find them helpful, but I don't think they're going to ever replace a copywriter.
Okay. All right. How important do you think is it for brands to develop like a single voice that they use across all their channels?
So maybe this is an unpopular opinion. I don't think you should have a drastically different voice on different social platforms and on different marketing channels. But sometimes I think brands worry so much about voice and not enough about actually putting something interesting and compelling out there.
Right. Or maybe like the voice is dry and dead. So that's what articles should sound like. Right.
And the voice is kind of like a cop out for doing something actually interesting. And I've had a lot of people tell me, oh, that's not our voice. And, basically they have this very boring corporate way of writing that's like so dry and terrible to read. And that's their voice as they describe it. Like they say that that's their voice. And my reaction to that is like, why? Okay, so you're intentionally choosing to have a terrible, boring voice? Like, why would you do that? Like, that's terrible. So I do think having a consistent voice is important. But I wouldn't be so tied to voice that you're unwilling.
You lose opportunities.
Right. And if your voice is terrible, change your voice. Like, so I guess that would be my response to that. I think sometimes marketers are so much like, oh, we need to develop our brand voice. And I think it would be better if they worked on developing their brand story and what makes them interesting and what makes them compelling. And when you have a good brand story and you have brand values, it naturally builds a voice, because if X is your value, you're not going to say Y, because this is your value over here. So I would say that's my advice.
Okay. All right. What are your top tips to creating like a great email strategy?
One, give a reason for people to subscribe, whether that's creating a great lead magnet or sending a regular, really valuable newsletter that people actually want to be on your email list to get your content. So first off, you need to start creating great content that people want and that gives them a reason to subscribe. That's number one. You're not going to have an email list unless that happens. And alongside of that goes, making sure that your entire email list is permission-based. And not, opting people in against their will. So third, I guess I would say, is regularly clean your email list. It's going to help with your email deliverability. And then there are just people on your list who aren't opening, who are, hurting your deliverability, and they're costing you money. Yep. And then 4, keep in mind a mobile. I know that seems like it should just be something everybody does, but they don't. And let me think, what would be 5? Send regularly. This is a relationship. Send content regularly if you can. And that's hard to do, especially if you're a small team, but find a way to send content regularly. But number 1 is just, you need to create good content and send that to people. And that gives them a reason to be on your list. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. That was great. All right. What are the top things to avoid?
Buying email lists. Don't do it. Don't do it. And again, when I say that to people, I have many marketers who say to me, really? Like, who's still buying email lists? And there are a lot of people.
Tons.
Yeah.
There's billion-dollar companies collecting people's information and selling it.
Right. It's yeah.
It's
so
crazy.
I hate it from multiple levels. I don't think it works because, it's like a shot in the dark. Maybe it'll work.
I think it does work
meanwhile,
to a degree.
What's that?
I think it does work to a degree. I think if it totally didn't work, it would die. it would kill
Right.
itself. You know,
So it works
right.
for people.
So,
I just have such a deep hatred of it because I just ethically, I think it's terrible. Because I don't want my email list sold. Nobody wants who wants to raise their hand and be like, oh yeah, sell my email list or sell my email address. So yeah, I don't, I know it works because, people do it, but it is a shot in the dark.
well, do
And
people
there
ask
are,
you to write content for cold emails? Like, have you been approached?
oh
Like
yes.
to write emails? Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I say no. And it depends on the scenario. Like if you're putting these emails into an email marketing platform and sending, that's where I draw my line. But like if you're, if you're a sales rep and you're doing one-on-one cold outreach to people, that's very different.
Right.
Because ideally you're adding some level of personalization there. And also it's not a mass email.
Yeah. Now I'm trying to do some cold email for a client. And first off, the list he gave me, it's probably not the people he wants to talk to. Like his odds of converting them are like nil.
Right.
I hope he's not listening. But I told him this.
Yeah, I mean, it's
yeah, but
tough.
the work is very tough, meaning like I'm doing a lot of work to make it extremely personal. Like I really know who they are and what their background is and how long you're working at that company. And, so my subject lines are like, congratulations, you've been there for 15 years. Like seriously, open it and then like maybe hear about, what we're offering. But at least like I'm talking to them and not just like spend, like that. I mean, the company previous experience was just like, send a lot of email and hope for the best.
Right. Yeah. What I don't love is like the email blast idea where you're getting a purchase list of like 10,000 people and like blasting them with this same message. Yeah. But I mean,
sure.
cold one-on-one email outreach is a skill. So props to anyone who does it.
Yeah. Aweber. She's also on LinkedIn, but she has a course and there's a few people. They're mastering the cold email. We've actually reached the end, and it's just a final thoughts kind of session.
Yeah. I mean, as far as email and social and anything, great content is going to win. And so that would be my final thought, like find a way to write great, valuable content and solve people's struggles and pain points. And that's going to be successful. And it's going to work. And I do have a free guide to email open rates if anyone wants to check it out. If you go to lizwillits.com, the guide is there.
Okay. There you go. So pick up the guide at lizwillits.com. That's our show for today. Stick around, Liz. I'll be right with you. That's our show for today. Thank you, anyone who popped in. And we'll see you actually tomorrow. I'm recording with Emily Ryan. You can check her out at westendcreative.com. And thanks again to Ongage. We love you.